Hi everybody, this is a Rakdos Arcane Bombardment deck that leans really heavily on early game discard before trying to finish off the game with a mix of powerful spells. So this deck was submitted by a viewer to the channel. I'll put an image of that up here. They said they were having pretty good success with a bombardment deck list that used a lot of early discard, so let's take a look at that now. We've got 4 copies of Dreams of Steel and Oil. I was a little skeptical of this card at first, but it's actually a bit better than it appears at first. So basically with this card, we get to choose a card from our opponent's hand that's an artifact or creature, and then do the same for their graveyard, and exile both of them. So this can take care of tenacious underdogs that are already in the grave, and other annoying things, but it also fills an interesting role in this deck, in that we can cast it early sometimes to kind of cement our early game. As you can see, we've got 4 copies of Brotherhood's End, and a little bit of other removal, but we're kind of removal light. We've only got 2 copies of Abrade over here, 2 copies of Go for the Throat. So in the early game, Dreams of Steel and Oil can kind of keep us safe a little bit. We can take the most dangerous thing until we can build up to the mid and late game and start taking over. And then in the late game, once we've got a bombardment going, Dreams of Steel and Oil is cheap enough to activate bombardment, and we still get an effect even if our opponent's empty-handed, since we get to exile a few things out of our opponent's graveyard, possibly. Now, the other card we've got in here is also 4 copies of Pilfer. Pilfer hits everything for 2 mana. It's a sorcery, just like Dreams of Steel and Oil, so it does limit the flexibility of our options a little bit, but it can really pick apart an opponent's hand and activate bombardment as well. So we've got 4 of that in here. We've talked a bit about the low end and the removal. We've got some Thrill of Possibility and some Big Score to help us ramp a little bit and draw some extra cards. And then for our finishers, we've only got 2 of each of Burn Down the House, Invoke Despair, and Corrupt. Looking at the mana base, we do have a good mix of swamps, so our late game Corrupts will do a significant chunk of damage even if we're not running entirely swamps. Let's get a few games under our belt with this deck, and I'll check in with you in a few minutes and we'll make some changes to it. Alright, let's sit down with some Rakdos Arcane Bombardment. Trying to lean on some discard. Unfortunately, none of that in our opening hand, but we'll see some soon, I'm sure. Opponent could be on... Alright, Azorius. So, haven't seen too much control. Could be soldiers, but usually soldiers would play something by now. Let's just get up to 2 mana. We've got a removal spell. Reinforcements. Doesn't quite warrant the Go for the Throat. Probably wait for some kind of Soldier Lord or something else. There he is. Let's go ahead and get rid of that now. Save us a bit of damage. And slips it out the back. Okay. Ooh. Alright, so we drew Brotherhood's End there, so we just need to keep everybody at 3 or less toughness. Yeah, I think it's still worth saving the 5 life here by trying to kill this. What is this? Alright, so they return the veteran to owner's hand and save it. However, that still lines up really nicely with Brotherhood's End, so not the worst. We've got this untapped land here for Invoke Despair as early as next turn. Okay, the soldier puts a counter on itself, so let's go ahead and make him sacrifice here. Pick up a couple of cards in the process. Get on the board with a little bit of damage. Excellent. So we've drawn into Bombardment now. They've got 1 card, so we could just lay this right now, and I think it'll be okay. Unless this will draw us a few more. I think Bombardment's the way to go. We could have invoked and taken a peek there with the Dreams, but sometimes you just got to go for it. Like at 1 card in hand, what are they going to do? Especially in this deck. Steel Seraph gives itself an ability. Alright, we draw another untapped land. I mean, I think Invoke Despair is still our best option here. It'll draw us 2 cards and activate, and we get it in the graveyard for the future. Couldn't go for the Throat the Seraph there, and opponent's seen enough. Alright, good game. Alright, we're here for another Rakdos Discard Arcane Bombardment game. Trying out SM's list. Really leaning heavily on this discard here. We got 4 Dreams of Steel and Oil, 4 Pilfer, one of which we have right now. I think what we're going to do is just leave our options open. We've got removal and this Thrill here. And I'm not quite sure what our opponent's doing, so what are you doing? Okay, Celestis. That's kind of a control signal. Let's thrill away this Corrupt. Save that for later. And we draw Bombardment, and we have a big score now. That's excellent. So I think, since they're kind of slow, let's use this to get rid of the Celestis. It's going to provide a long-term advantage that I'd rather they not have. And then we can big score next turn, or possibly Pilfer to try and clear the way if they're holding on to some counter spells. Opponent thinking about what to do here. Probably going to see a Wanderer out of them. I'm always a little suspect of the player with 4 mana open. Oh, okay. Trying to meld some Urzas here, maybe. Interesting. Well, let's go for this. Discard another Corrupt. It's fine if they live in the graveyard for a little bit. This is a tempting counterspell target, so let's see what they do here. Alright, they do use the negate. It's a good deal for them since we've already discarded the card and we don't get the effect, but it does clear us the way for Invoke Despair. So we're really trying to get up to 6 lands and then land this Bombardment free and clear if we can. Opponent just passes, no land. Well, we've got 2. Let's try to go for the first one, and if this fails, we can try to Pilfer in advance of the second. All right, we going to see that Wanderer yet? Looking at their graveyard. Okay. Obscura Charm returns Urza to the battlefield, so if they've got the Might Stone here, we could see that come down. Just an attack. What else? And a Teferi. Probably drawing here? Yes. Untapping doesn't make too much sense. They've got negate mana. Maybe they're searching for more counterspells. We just get a proving ground, so let's Pilfer and see what you're holding on to over there. Bombardment picks up a Corrupt. Question is, where do we want to point this? Oh, okay. Opponent scoops it up. Good game. So we've gotten some games in. Let's make a few adjustments. Now, to me, this deck actually didn't perform too badly. It kind of fits in with the style of Arcane Bombardment deck that I like to play. It just felt like it was missing a couple of things to make it feel a little more comfortable for me. But I will say, overall, we didn't have to make that many changes to it. The balance of spells and effects is pretty nice. The only thing I will say with this kind of deck that I've noticed is that it's possible to run too much discard. So if we end up drawing kind of the wrong part of the deck, as they say, and we end up getting a lot of discard spells that don't really have an effect on the board, we can kind of get trapped in a really bad situation, especially against a lot of the mono-red aggro decks that are coming at us in the field right now. So as always with these decks, kind of take it with a grain of salt. Usually you're going to get a good mix of spells, but sometimes if we draw kind of all of one particular ability, like discard, then you can run into problems for sure. So a couple of the changes I made. So we took out a few Dreams of Steel and Oil because it is nice in the early game, but what's even nicer is actually being able to remove a creature or possibly damage our opponent and finish off a game a little faster. The creator of this deck mentioned that once we get some discard spells under Bombardment, it's possible to use our instants to go off during their draw step and actually prevent them from drawing a card basically ever again. However, this depends a lot on getting those spells under Bombardment in the first place and having instants in a deck that also relies heavily on a lot of sorcery speed spells. So anyway, I took out a couple of Dreams in favor of 2 Play with Fire down there. Went down 1 Thrill of Possibility, and I took out 1 Brotherhood's End. We kept the 4 Pilfers because they hit so many things that it makes it worthwhile to keep 4 of these in the deck. The only other change I made here was going up to a full 4 Invoke Despair. We just need something to hit the opponent a little harder, keep us drawing cards, and this is the best of the bunch. When you look at finishers in a black-red Arcane Bombardment deck, we've already got 3 of the best ones in here, in Invoke, Corrupt, and Burn Down the House. So it's kind of a question of which one do you go with? Now, we've already got some sweepers in Brotherhood's End, so we don't really need to depend on Burn Down the House for sweeping and devil creation as much as we might in another deck. And Corrupt is good, but it's kind of slow, and we're not running exclusively swamps in here, so I think keeping it at 2 is nice for the life gain and the ability to just smack an opponent out of nowhere. But Invoke Despair is still one of the best spells in Standard just because the amount of damage it can do, the amount of threats that it can get rid of, and the amount of cards that it can draw for us repeatedly when we use it with Arcane Bombardment. So anyway, let's go over and see some games with this deck on the ranked Standard ladder. Really want to thank commenter SM for submitting the initial deck list. Ended up working out really well, so thank you for that. So yeah, let's go over to the Standard ladder and see some games. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. All right, let's see what we can do with this slightly refined version. Got a lot of high-price stuff in our hand. We're going to need some earlier interaction or some ways to dump this in the graveyard with a big score. So opponent Bankbuster signaling something a little slower, which is great for our hand. Let's see. Let's Pilfer now. We don't have a bombardment yet. Just kind of want to see what's going on. All right, lay down arms. I think we take this. I don't see founding in a lot of other decks. I like it myself, but has the potential to enable some shenanigans. So let's keep them from getting multiple effects out of one card. Well, they find the second founding anyway. Not a huge deal. And Sunset Revelry just cycles itself away. Gonna play the Swamp here. Gives us the option to cycle away the Proving Ground. Opponent opts to mill us. Not the worst for an Arcane Bombardment deck. So we know our opponent's got 2 laydown arms and something else. And we're gonna have to deal with this Bankbuster eventually. Let's go ahead and cycle and see what we can get. Opponent uses Field of Ruin on our Bog. Well, we have plenty of basic swamps in here. Not a problem. All right, we draw Sulfurous Springs. Let's get this Bog down. Still no big score. And 3 is plenty to play this Go for the Throat. Unfortunately won't help us against Bankbuster, but I think its role right now is to just draw our opponent some cards, get him into the meat of whatever this deck is trying to do. They end up recasting Sunset Revelry. And a Rafine's Tower from the opponent. Well, we are still quite nice on lands. We can burn down the house, or we can invoke Despair. Despair's just the better card. We gotta do this. Ouch, we draw nothing but lands. And we can't play anymore either. So opponent will draw with Bankbuster, we'll discard this Springs. We'll be up to 6 for Corrupt if we want it. Opponent will Restoration. We may also have to cycle this Lounge out of our hand at some point. Ooh, another Invoke Despair. That's great. I think that's the way. We're trying to draw into our Bombardment. It is our control finisher. Still nothing. Now let's play a tap land. I mean, worst case scenario, we get enough swamps to just win with a single Corrupt. So with that in mind, let's get rid of that Haunted Ridge. See what we can do here. So what is the opponent going to have? Another Founding. Opponent decides to Impulse. Okay. They may also be digging for their finisher. Maybe a Planeswalker of some kind. But they've got enough to crew Bankbuster, so we're going to see that. Takes us down to 16. And a Leer. You don't see much of Leer anymore. They've got an Impulse down there. Okay. I think Burn Down the House makes sense. Leer just enables a lot of value, and we're really... Oh, and they have the Fading Hope for it, too. That's too bad. So they'll get to Fading Hope again if they get Leer down here. They make us mill. It's like some removal. Couple of lands. Still no bombardment. So there is hope. And the opponent will Impulse. Opponent digging for something here. We probably should have tried to get Leer right there. If they have a land, they can replay the Fading Hope, and they do. That was a bit of a punt. All right, well, we can try it anyway. Yep. Fading Hope's it back, but the Fading Hope is gone. And they really don't have much else useful down there. Okay, that's great. Bombardment while they're tapped out. We may just have to go for it here. Hope for the best. Get this Haunted Ridge down. So Founding ticks over to 3, but there's nothing left in the... Oh, no! Are you serious? Unlicensed Hearse. It's going to take out Burn Down the House. Very interesting. Well, that's going to be a problem. What do we got left? We got enough left. Let's see here. I think we play that. Let's just try to finish this game off. We've got 2 Corrupts in hand. Time to stop being cute. Alright, let's cast Burn Down the House. Make some devils. Let's see if we can get this to land. We do. Let's attack with some devils. Get you to 1. Suppose we could have Brotherhood's End there to get rid of these Bankbusters, but our life total's pretty high, and now our opponent's in a very precarious position. Paragon, okay. Sense a theme here. So they can exile a few of our things, but I think that still leaves us with 1 devil. Unless they were going to go the Leer route. All right, they make us mill again. I don't think that's the best plan. Cycles a land. And crews up a Bankbuster. Well, that's only 4. All right, we got there. Good game. All right, let's keep this. We're here with another one, a slightly refined version of that Rakdos Arcane Bombardment deck with a little extra discard thrown in. Ooh. Don't see the Evangel too much. Some people thought that was going to be pretty excellent. I mean, it may still be excellent. I just don't see it very much. Oh, the Anointer. I like this. I'm going to have to make a Dimir deck. All right. So we're up to 3. Not enough mana for the end. Let's just try to Pilfer. We really want to dodge like a Shieldred or something. That Puppeteer is close to a Shieldred. Let's take that. And then I don't think we need to Dreams just yet. So Anointer number 2. This is all solvable with the Brotherhood's End for the moment. We just need an untapped red source. So let's try to find it. Get the Scry here. Abrade, not terribly useful. Really want those lands. Ooh. Yeah, let's try to look for a land here. Okay. We got the second red. We're in good shape. I mean, relatively good shape. A third Anointer. And it only gets in for 4. Yeah, I think it's going to have to be the end here, right? So they will all trigger, but there's only one thing down there that they can get. So now we just have to deal with this Phyrexian Sleeper Agent. I think it's Despair. That'll prevent them from growing the Sleeper and getting cards off of it. They flash in a Vandal. And sack the Sleeper. Interesting. Okay. I guess they're thinking the evasion's going to be more valuable than the eventual card draw on the ground. Okay, gets in for 1. We know they've got a Grasp. A Grasp and an Indulgence. I think we're safe here. Indulgence, probably looking for a counter. Activates the Vandal. Bombardment lands. Let's activate right now. Okay, we pick up a Thrill. Was really hoping for a Despair there, but we'll take it. Get some lands and another End. Well, opponent appears to be running some creatures that are vulnerable to the End, so that's fine. And let's get rid of the Puppeteer, just in case they've got a way to bring it back. Still a good amount of... not reincarnation. What's the word I'm thinking of? Interesting, they've got a Vortex. Reanimation, yes. Good amount of reanimation spells still left in Standard. Sleeper comes back, they immediately pump it, and gets in with the Vandal. Alright, so we're at 6. What can we pull up here? I think doing the End, we might be able to pull up some extra damage and finish off everything here. Just a big score. We'll get rid of this land and Thrill with the other land. Let's see what we can draw into here. Second Bombardment. Pilfer and Corrupt. Well, let's get a Swamp down. Let's Pilfer. I really want to get rid of that. I don't know. Can that Vortex hit permanents? I think it's just creatures. Well, let's get rid of it anyway. Yep. So we've got big score to activate Bombardment with on our opponent's turn. Okay, great. They do a little draw and discard, which activates the Vandal. Still not enough to take us out of the game. And they don't appear to be running Invoke Despairs or have them at the moment. Let's Abrade the Evangel. See what else we can pick up here. Alright, we do pick up the Brotherhood's End. Might have made more sense to target the flyer there, but I think we're alright anyway. I think we're alright. Good. No sign in blood left in Standard. Let's cycle this Proving Ground. Alright, a decent amount of swamps, but I don't think enough to finish somebody outright. But Corrupt, definitely the way to go. Get that in the yard and see what else we pick up here. Brotherhood's End, sure. And then Play with Fire will be enough to finish off the Vandal. No, I don't think we should have pointed that at our opponent's face. I don't think we had enough on the Corrupt to win. Nope, they would have been at 4. Opponent considers trying to dig into some more action here. So they've got a Grasp, 2 unknowns. Alright, the Foundry. Not too worried about that. Not terribly big. Alright, we cycle away the Lounge and get another Bog. Well, I think it is Invoke Despair time for sure. Do you have an answer? We pick up Play with Fire, some more damage. Big score this land away. Might as well throw away this other Brotherhood's End. Okay, any answers? Looks like this is gonna work. Play with Fire, we'll keep the Despair, and then Despair's enough for the win. Okay. Good game. Alright, here for one more with our modified Rakdos Bombardment list, leaning on discard. Can be a little slow sometimes with all these tapped swamps coming in. But let's go ahead and get these bogs down first. If we keep drawing lands, we can cycle away these triomes. Fable from our opponent. Let's Pilfer and see what they're going for over there. Okay, so this is definitely Reanimator. Pilfer doesn't exile. They're going to discard that portal anyway. Let's at least take the counter. Ooh, so they just drew another portal. I was going to say, Dreams could handle one of those, but not anymore. So now we just need to keep them from drawing into a reanimation spell for those portals. Although we don't have any creatures in here. So unless they've got something good to reanimate, that's not going to be the greatest. So it's not a huge rush. Even so, let's take a look. Doubles up on the Make Disappear, I guess trying to protect the graveyard. Okay. I guess going to be leaning on Faithful Mending here. Flips the Fable over. That'll be online next turn. Interesting. All right, so the Archaeologist is digging a little bit. Let's get this Lounge down. Can't quite Invoke Despair just yet. Hopefully they don't do anything too terrible to us. Our only option is to Pilfer, which doesn't make so much sense with all these mendings around. They're just going to be able to use them again. Big score, really the best thing for us right now. Opponent looking at the reflection. All right, copying the Archaeologist. Mills a few there. Still we're on the big score plan. Let's get rid of this Pilfer. Opponent doesn't appear to have any more counter spells. Of course, the last card that you can't see is the Make Disappear. All right. Well, we've still... Ooh, and there's a Corrupt. Well, we've still got enough for this Invoke Despair. So let's get this going. Even though our big score got countered, it cleared the way for Invoke Despair. Oh, no lands either. Okay. Well, we are definitely on the Invoke Despair train. Opponent up to 6. And there is Teferi.
Don't feel bad when you lose. Quite a tough opponent.
They choose to draw. Makes Teferi a bit bigger. Hopefully they don't have enough mana to protect it. And we draw the 4th Invoke Despair. Let's try to get rid of Teferi this way and draw in some more lands. No, still no lands. All right. Well, I think our plan for now is to try to Invoke Despair them low enough so that we can Corrupt for the win. So we'll need to get 1, possibly 2 more of these off. Oof, and with these Faithful Mendings, that's just gonna stave us off for a little bit, isn't it? Okay, another Fable makes a token. Finally, another Swamp. Well, I think we invoke anyway. That takes care of the Fable board. Let's get the Proving Ground down since it's tapped. This way, if we draw Bombardment next turn, we can immediately do Dreams of Steel and Oil. Oh, this life gain. I don't think our opponent knows just how crucial this is for keeping them alive right now. Torch Breath, huh? Okay. Let's see. Let's drop a Swamp. Let's make some tokens, give them something else to worry about in the meantime. And we will get in for 3. If our opponent's still going to gain all this life off of these Mendings, would at least like a repeatable source of damage on the board to kind of try and nullify that advantage. How many of those have they had? 3 Faithful Mendings? 2 life each, times 2. Alright, there's finally the Reanimation spell. So Portal takes out our Devils. We still get a little damage out of them, and that takes our opponent down to 10. There's not much left to reanimate, though, besides, what, those Archaeologists, I think? Yep, there's Teferi. Okay. I mean, Despair is so good. I think we kind of have to. Pretty great. Let's get this Lounge down. So they're at 4. They can Mending 1 more time and get to 6. We should have enough to finish them. I think we're up to 8 Swamps for this Corrupt. And that's assuming they don't draw into some kind of counterspell. Oh, and I think they just found the 4th Mending, too, with all that. Wonderful. Teferi back again.
You know, I've always got time to fight evil.
Makes the creature. So they've got a Power Stone and a couple of mana. It looks like they can get at least one of these Mendings off. So they're effectively at 6. I think we can just dome them with a Corrupt. Right. Opponent does the Mending. Draws a couple of cards, which should trigger the Spirit and Teferi, but looks like just Power Stone mana left, so nothing. I don't think they can do anything. Yep. Man, crazy game.